Let's record. There we go. All right, so recording. I'm going to drop this in the chat. I'll also post this on the classroom page, but right now, everybody can access it this way. Let me know if you have problems viewing that. It should open a PDF for you in your browser, or I think it's a doc, actually, technically. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea here is this is a triangle. And I'm going to do it this way, I think. I'll share it as a whiteboard. Let me see if this works. Excellent. So is there a shape? Let me see if there's a shape thing. Yeah, let's see. Draw. There we go. Oh, I got to do a separate one. Okay. Can I do it? No, I can't. Sorry, I'm trying to find the thing that lets me do a next shape. There's got to be one, right? There we go. So notice something about my little pyramid here that I'm drawing. Notice I didn't draw it perfectly straight as an isosceles triangle. Where's my math peeps? It's not equilateral. It's not, I mean, I didn't do a third side, but still, it is
scalene.
It is a scalene triangle. And we have now used up all of the math that I know in this one lesson. Okay, so here's my scalene triangle. And the reason I made it scalene is because what most people screw up and don't realize about structure is this. Right up here at the top, and sometimes it's easier to understand what this is first, is the climax. Whoa, that's gonna be really big. Hang on, there is a way to adjust this if I can remember how to find it. Somewhere there's a setting for changing this. Window, show. Oh well. I know I did it at some point. Format, there it is. That's too small. Now I feel like the genie in Aladdin. Closer, closer, too close. Okay. So right up here at the top, we have the climax. I'm not going to talk about what that is yet, but I just want to make the point that that's why I'm making it scaling, because what happens is when you draw this as an equilateral triangle, people get a little confused, and they actually end up thinking that the climax should happen right in the middle of the book, and it absolutely does not. It actually happens closer to the end. So let's go to the beginning here, and the first thing we have, can I copy these so I can do this more easily? Let's see. There we go. No, there we go. CV, I can't copy them. Okay, so I'm gonna do a new circle. So down here is where we start. All right, sorry, it's not gonna be perfectly neat. It'll drive me nuts. Sorry, OCD people. So down here at the beginning, can I copy? I can't copy and paste, really? Dang, whiteboard, okay. Down here. Somehow I changed the color though. I don't know how I did that. Right at the very beginning, we start with exposition. Exposition is everything that's come before the actual play begins. So any part of the story that's something that we know already before we actually get right into the telling of this story. And if you look on the sheet that I sent you just now, there are 3 parts to the exposition. And this is the part that they don't usually get into in such great detail. But it's actually pretty nice because it tells you what to look for. 1 is antecedent events. 2 is introduction of characters. And 3 is atmosphere. So we learn, in acting, they would call this previous action is what we call it in an acting class. So antecedent events are what major things have happened before the story begins. So in other words, you can't say Lucentio sees Bianca and falls in love with her, because we see that happen, right? You can't say Kate breaks a lute over somebody's head. So it's all pre-existing things that have happened. Introduction of characters. Now that actually is, we get to know people, but they're already fully formed before we meet them. So what are the important things that are revealed about the characters as they show up, right? And what do we know about them as we're introduced by them? And then 3, atmosphere. What is going on in the setting? What's important here? What is this town like? Are there conditions? Is there a war going on, right? When we talk about Much Ado About Nothing, the next play, in Much Ado, it's actually they've all just come back from war. And it affects the feeling of the time so much that in the movie version, like, it's lots of naked people running around bathing. Like, they all just run into the showers when they hear the soldiers are coming back. And so you're seeing all this, like, bodies and people running around and putting on makeup and painting. And, it's like this joyous, obviously everybody is in this sort of sensual mood coming out of war. And so it really sets the tone of the play for the backdrop of marriage and love and infidelity that's going to happen in it. Okay. Complication then becomes the next part. So the complication is really where we're going to start getting into the story proper. And usually that will happen. So this whole element here is the complication, but somewhere along here, you're going to have something that's sort of like this. That's going to drive me crazy. So we're into the play, we know what's going on, and now, sorry, whiteboard is not my favorite feature here. Why can't I draw a new one? There you are. Now, where people place this varies, but that's fine. Some people would actually say that it would look like this. I'll show you one version of this that I've seen. I've actually seen a version that would do it like this. Exposition, and then they would consider the inciting incident that. Does everybody get how I'm saying that it's sort of like the thing that gets us rolling? And then what they would do is place this. So again, the placement on the pyramid is less important, but what we have here then is complication. All of this here, so everything from down here all the way to here. Anybody know what that's all called?
Rising action.
So that's all of our rising action. This whole arc from here all the way up to there. That's our rising action. And of course, we have the counter on the other side, falling action. So right now we're talking about everything that's part of the rising action over here. So, okay, so if you go back to the outline that I gave you, complication begins with the inciting incident, and then we have this thing called general complication elements, which is a terribly vague way of describing it. It just means a bunch of stuff happens. So anything that's a major plot driving event. Petruchio comes to town. That would be a major complication element, right? He decides to marry Kate. Those would be major complication elements. And then what we have that's called protagonist, antagonist, relative power. This is much clearer in a drama, because in a tragedy, this is where in the beginning, the protagonist starts to gain power. Macbeth starts to gain honors. Things happen to him, right? Romeo and Juliet start falling in love and things are going well. Now, in Macbeth, you have an antagonist that changes. At first it's Banquo and then later it's Macduff. In Romeo and Juliet, your antagonist is Tybalt, and obviously he loses power in the beginning, but then later things start to change. Sometimes you have a clear protagonist and antagonist that are against each other. In the comedy, It's the opposite, right? In the tragedy, the protagonist is gaining power till at the end he loses it. And then the antagonist, if you think about Othello, right? Othello starts out pretty well, and then Iago starts tipping it, and Othello starts getting out of control. Does everybody follow me on complication?
Mm-hmm.
And here's where the climax occurs, and this is the part that should be easiest to identify. Here's why. People think it's just a point where things are exciting sometimes. It's not. It's the point of no return. But it's also a point of decision and inevitability. So if you took that one out, the rest of the play doesn't happen. So that point of decision, inevitability, and no return. And then over here, you get the opposite of the complication, which is called the reversal. Now, Aristotle had a different term for this. If I can spell the damn word right, let's see. I got it. Peripeteia. Oh, no, I got it. Yep. So Aristotle, who was also another person who really analyzed drama, and when we say literature, in this case, we're talking about drama because that was the literature they used, plays, right? So he came up with this term, peripeteia. So the reversal is sort of the opposite to the complication. You have general reversal elements, which are things that show you the protagonist is losing power in a tragedy or that the protagonist is gaining power in a comedy. You revisit this idea of protagonist, antagonist, relative power, and then there's some kind of resolution. The resolution being sort of like the inciting incident. After the resolution, so like to me, the death of Macbeth isn't the climax of Macbeth. The death of Macbeth is actually the resolution that wraps up the reversal elements. In other words, he's totally, the relative power is over it with his death. And then at the very end, we have the catastrophe, which a French term. I don't know if I can do an accent mark here or not. Let me see if I copy this. I can't. Can I copy it? Let me see. I'm just not 100% sure if this will let me do an accent mark.
If you do option and then the little option E is your
Did
accent.
it work here? Let's see. Oh.
Whoa.
Damn.
Denouement the same thing as the resolution?
Say that again?
Is denouement and catastrophe the same thing as resolution?
That's it's a loaded question you're asking, and I'll tell you why. So denouement, the French term here, which of course you always remember how to spell by thinking of denouement. So I always just think of it. So the denouement and the catastrophe. Catastrophe and denouement are the same thing. If you noticed, I used the term resolution when I was talking about reversal, and I said resolution was sort of like the inciting incident. So the problem is this. Some analysis, including Freidegger points, will actually use the term resolution synonymous with catastrophe and denouement. So yes, but if you look at the expanded outline that I gave you here, the resolution actually is a step leading into this. The problem is these things overlap sometimes, and it's not like a perfect like step-by-step outline. Because this outline wasn't written to be like, hey, this is how to write this. This outline was written analyzing work that already existed. Does that make sense? So it's not perfect. And sometimes these things will overlap. Likewise, there's another word for climax that people use sometimes, which is crisis. Have you heard that before? Climax or crisis. And the problem is there's also some outlines that actually look at that and say, no, the climax and the crisis are actually two slightly different things. But that gets so confusing that I don't want to get into that. But people tend to use the term climax more than they use crisis. I can't edit that. Oh. Okay, so everybody have the general idea of how this is working here? So one of the things, and I could share you on the, I'm going to stop sharing here. How do I stop? There you are. I will share you a full out PowerPoint that's got this in even greater detail. So you can actually visit and revisit this. Because one of the things I'd like you to do is ultimately work on a little analysis of shrew where you take a look at this and judge shrew by this. Maybe I'll break us into little groups, like half class and half or something. Okay. So my question is, I actually wonder if the climax is not in this act. And to me, it might be this scene, because if it's a point of decision, I think Kate makes a decision in this scene. Because if she does not go along with Petruchio, they're going home, right? And you know he'll do it. He's that guy. We've seen it. He gets rid of everything. And instead, things change here. So let's read a little bit. I need a Petruchio. Zara, I'll need a Kate. Abby, I will need a Hortensio. Caroline, and I will need a Vincentio. Leanna, and I don't think Grumio has any lines in here, although he's in the scene.
We're starting on Act 5.
Starting on Act 4, Scene 5, page 185.
Okay.
Okay. So they're traveling, and here comes Petruchio.
Come on, in God's name, once more toward our fathers. Good Lord, how bright and goodly shines the moon.
The moon, the sun, it is not moonlight now.
I say it is the moon that shines so bright.
Could you come up with more of a like childish argument than this? I mean, it is mid-daylight. It's sunny out. And Petruchio looks up into the sky and goes, gosh,
You're gone,
the
Mr.
moon
Sherry.
is
I
bright.
can still hear us, but you're completely gone. There you go.
No, you okay? I'll go. How's that?
Audio's better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I turned the video off for a second. Try to turn it. It's better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bright, middle of the day, sunlight. And he's going, my gosh, the moon shines bright tonight. And of course, Kate knows what he's doing, but at first she can't let it go. She's like, yes, that's the sun, dude. And they get into a little like baby argument about it.
I know it is the sun that shines so bright.
Now, by my mother's son, and that's myself, it shall be the moon, or star, or what I list, wherever I journey to your father's house.
Notice here.
Go on and fetch our horses back again.
Notice Kate doesn't react here, and he reacts for her. So this gives us a note to a director to say, oh, Kate needs to somehow be stubborn here, because he's like, nope, we'll go home.
Evermore crossed and crossed, nothing but crossed.
Say as he says, or we shall never go.
So Hortensia's like, come on, we've been on the road for hours. Just say yes.
Forward, I pray, since we have come so far, and be it moon or sun or what you please. And if you please to call it a rush candle, henceforth I vow it shall be so for me.
That would be like a cheap-ass candle, like your lowest quality candle. She's like, so if you say it's a flashlight, fine, it's a flashlight, she goes.
I say it is the moon.
I know it is the moon.
Nay, then you lie. It is the blessed sun.
Okay, watch this. Petruchio is being super petty here, right? She's like, you're right, it's the moon. It's like, no, wait, that's the sun. Except watch what she does here. I think he's overplayed his hand. Because now, what else can he do? So look what she says next.
Then God be blessed. It is the blessed sun. But sun it is not, when you say it is not. And then the moon changes even as your mind. What will you have it named, even that it is? and so it shall be so for Catherine.
Petruchio, go thy ways. The field is won.
Well, forward, forward. Thus the bull should run, and not unluckily against the bias. But soft, company is coming here.
So he's like, okay. Like, he's having fun with this argument, but what else can he do now? She's just said, whatever you say, I'll say. So when somebody agrees with you completely, how can you argue with them? And watch. She, for one moment here, maybe thinks about this, but look in the text. She really doesn't in the text. Here comes an old man with a beard.
Sorry. Good morrow, gentle mistress. Where away? Tell me, sweet Kate, and tell me truly too. Hast thou beheld a fresher gentlewoman? Such war of white and red within her cheeks.
So he starts to describe her, Vincentio, as if he were a beautiful young woman.
What stars do spangle heaven with such beauty as those two eyes become that heavenly face? Fair, lovely maid, once more a good day to thee. Sweet Kate, embrace her for her beauty's sake.
He will make the man mad to make the woman of him.
Young budding virgin, fair and fresh and sweet, whither away, or where is thy abode? Happy the parents of so fair a child. Happier the man whom favorable stars allot thee for his lovely bedfellow.
So
Why,
Kate-
how now, Kate? I hope
Kate
thou art
takes
not
it a
mad.
step further here. Kate goes so far with it that she even comments on how just alluring this guy is, and even makes a little bit of a sexual joke about how lucky a guy would be who gets into her bed about this old man. And then Petruchio turns around on her and is like, what are you talking about?
This is a man, old, wrinkled, faded, withered, and not a maiden, as thou sayst he is.
Pardon, old father, my mistaking eyes, that have been so bedazzled with the sun.
So
that
notice
everything
now that reference back to the sun and moon again. There's a great moment in the video, if you watch this scene on that video, where Kate goes so bedazzled with, and she kind of looks over at him, the sun, like she's like questioning which one he wants it to be. It's a brilliant interpretation.
that everything I look on seemeth green. Now I perceive thou art a reverend father. Pardon, I pray thee, for my mad mistaking.
And now they kind of stop the game.
Do, good old grandsire, and withal make known which way thou travellest. If along with us, we shall be joyful of thy company.
Fair sir, and you, my merry mistress, that with your strange encounter much amazed me. My name is called Vincencio, my dwelling Pisa, and bound am I to Padua, there to visit a son of mine, which I long have not seen.
What is his name?
Vincencio, gentle sir.
Happily met, the happier for thy son. And now by law as well as reverend age, I may entitle thee my loving father, the sister to my wife, this gentlewoman, thy son by this hath married. Wonder not, nor be not grieved. She is of good esteem, her dowry wealthy, and of worthy birth. Besides, so qualified as may beseem the spouse of any noblewoman. Let me embrace with old Vicentio, and wander till we see thy honest son, who will of thy arrival be full joyous.
So he fills him in on everything he's missed about
But is
Lucentio.
this true, or is it else your pleasure?
He's just filling him in on everything. So it's all true what he said. But poor Vincentio, having run into these people who called him a young woman, is now totally like, are you messing with me again? Because I didn't know he got married.
But pleasant travelers, to break a jest, upon the company you overtake.
I do assure thee, father, so it is.
Come, go along and see the truth hereof, for our first merriment hath made thee jealous.
Well, Petruchio, this hast put me in heart. Have too, my widow, and if she be forward, then hast thou taught Hortensio to be untoward.
So he's like, all right, I see how to do this now. He's taming school has definitely worked here, right? So he's been studying Petruchio. Okay. And has anybody watched this scene in the video version? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to pause the recording here for a moment. So let's pick back up here. What do you think is going on there? Anybody notice anything interesting in this portrayal? Yeah, Caroline. You're still muted, by the way, too. There you go. I got you.
So like she tries to agree with Petruchio, but then he like goes back on her and kind of reverses what he was doing to try to make it look like it was her fault that she was calling the Vincentio like a woman.
Did you did you catch that moment that I was talking about with him, where when Hortensio says to him, "Go that way as the field is won"? What is Petruchio's reaction there?
Is that where he took off his
Doesn't
hat?
he like laugh about it?
Almost like reluctance, like, oh, is it over already?
He actually vocalizes. He goes, "Well," and then he moves on. Like he had more to this game plan. He wanted to keep going, but she's sort of, even though he's won, she's ended the game by agreeing with him. Anybody notice anything else about her in this scene?
I noticed. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, she doesn't seem so angry with him winning. She's laughing it off, basically.
Yeah, Philip, are you going to add to that, or was that similar to what you were going to say?
I was going to add a little bit more.
Go ahead.
It seemed like that the Bedfellows comment that was almost intentional, because I actually thought that Petruchio seemed embarrassed that Kate was going as far as she
He
did.
jumped in, right? In fact, in this version, he almost cuts
he
it
was like,
off.
"Oh, no, this." Yeah, he was actually like taken aback at how like committed she was to the game. So I feel like she almost one upped him by actually like being so dedicated.
Yeah, Sarah.
I feel like they kind of like gave off like a team kind of vibe. Like it was
Yeah.
like it
right?
was just weird. Like I thought there was still gonna be more like competing, and like even though they were like against each other, it was like playfully. So it was weird.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. And again, last time we saw them, I mean, he was starving her. They were, it wasn't going so well. And then all of a sudden on the road here, he threw away her dress. He stomped on her hat. And now, for the first time, really, we see Kate laughing. Right? She's cracking up. She's falling over on the ground laughing in this scene. That's pretty wild. But it's also interesting that it's a game they're now playing together. It's instead of becoming a game Petruchio's playing, affecting Kate. I think Zara's right. It's starting to become a game they can play together. Now, having read Act 5, who's gotten to the end at this point? Anybody make it all the way to the end of Act 5?
I like breeze through
Okay.
the intro to it.
I guarantee you, as you finish Act 5 tonight, you're going to see this come into play again. This idea of them now being a team in the game.
I was shocked by the ending.
Yeah. What? Well, I hang on to why you were shocked. I don't know if I want to talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about why you were shocked, and we'll see if how we deal with that. So we got a couple minutes left here. Let's pick back up now and get us started into scene 5. Let's see where we are. We get a bit of a comedic scene before we get into the crux of things here, right? And we do get a little bit of fun with Vincentio showing up, because now the merchant has fully committed to his role. So let's see. I'm going to need to add a Biondello. Who's not reading yet? I need a Biondello. I definitely want to make sure I've got the merchant. Biondello doesn't have too much. He's got a little. No, they've got 2. And then Baptista. I'll do Baptista. I don't have a Lucentio yet, but he's not in the scene much. Let's see. Who's not really reading anything yet? Leanna, do you have a character?
Yeah, I'm doing Vincencio.
Okay, you get Vincentio. Phil. Phil do the merchant.
Okay.
And Hortensio is no longer in this scene. So actually, my Hortensio. Actually, Hortensio, if you take over as Baptista. That was you, Caroline, right? Okay. So let's pick up Enter Biondello, Lucentio, and Bianca. Gremio is out and stands aside. So I'll take on Gremio then. I have a Biondello, right? Did I get a Biondello? Actually, Caroline, why don't you take on Biondello then? I'll stick with Baptista and Gremio.
Okay. Softly and swiftly, sir, for the priest is ready.
I fly Biondello. I don't think we have a Lucentio here, do we? Oh, we had one from before, yeah? Still or no? He's taken off, so it doesn't matter. But they may chance to leave thee at home, to need thee at home. Therefore, leave us. So he's taken off to go get ready. He's leaving Biondello here to take care of things.
Nay, Faith, I'll see the church at your back, and then come back to my master's as soon as I can.
So Biondello doesn't listen to him and goes anyway. And the reason that happens is to make it clear why Biondello isn't here to clarify this. Nay, Faith, Biondello, did we get there? Yeah. Oh, I'm Marvel Cambio comes not all this while. So Grumio's like, what happened to that Cambio guy? I haven't seen him in a while. And of course, they don't need Cambio anymore.
Sir, here is the door. This is Lucentio's house. My father bears more toward the marketplace. Thither I must, and here I leave you, sir.
You shall not choose, but drink before you go. I think I shall command your welcome here, and by all likelihood some cheer is toward.
So he's like, oh, well, here we go. We should all stay here. You're my son-in-law now, or brother-in-law. Let's have a drink here. We're relatives now. They're busy within. You best knock louder.
What's he that knocks as he would beat down the gate?
Is Signor Lucentio within, sir?
He's within, sir, but not to be spoken withal.
What if a man bring him £100 or two to make merry withal?
Keep your £100 to yourself. He shall need none so long as I live.
Nay, I told you your son was well beloved in Padua.
So
Do you
he's like,
hear,
look
sir?
at that. People in Padua are like, yeah, he doesn't need money. Go away. They love him here.
To leave frivolous circumstances, I pray you tell Signor Lucentio that his father is come from Pisa and is here at the door to speak with him.
So now he clarifies. He's like, all right, enough with the pleasantries. It's his dad. Go get him.
Thou liest. His father is come from Padua, and here, looking out at the window.
Art thou his father?
Aye, sir. So his mother says, if I may believe her.
So now, not only is he pretending to be Vincentio, but to Vincentio's face, he's actually insinuating that his wife might be unfaithful.
Why, how now, gentlemen? Why, this is flat knavery to take upon you another man's name.
Lay hand on the villain. I believe he means to cousin somebody in the city under my countenance.
Cousin means cheat. So the merchant is so confident in his role right now that he's having Vincentio arrested.
Not a good look.
Caroline, I have you as Biondello, right?
Right, yeah. I have seen them in the church together. God send him good shipping. But who is here? Mine old master Vincentio. Now we are undone and brought to nothing.
So now he's like, oh, crap.
Come hither, crack hemp.
I hope I may choose, sir.
Come hither, you rogue. What, have you forgot me?
Forgot you? No, sir, I could not forget you, for I have never saw you before in all my life.
What, you notorious villain? Didst thou never see thy master's father, Vincentio?
What, my old worshipful old master? Yes, marry, sir. See where he looks out of the window.
So he sticks with the lie.
Is it so indeed?
Oh, wait, we are out of time, are we not?
1 minute after.